All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about something that is, no joke, the absolute backbone of logistics for so many companies out there, the SAP Intra-Company Stock Transport Order. You've probably heard it called an STO. So think of it like this. We're going to follow a product on a little journey from one part of a company to another and really break down how SAP builds the digital roadmap for that whole trip. You ready? Let's do this. Okay, so first up, what in the world is an STO? Well, it's pretty simple at its core. An intra-company STO is just the official way you move stuff, materials, products, whatever, from one of your plants to another one. But, and this is key, it's all within the same company. So think moving something from your factory in Texas to your warehouse in California. It's an internal transfer, right? Not a sale to an outside customer. And I know what you're probably thinking right now. Wait a minute. It's my box, my company truck, and my other warehouse. Why does this have to be so complicated? And you know what? That is the perfect question. Because sticking a box on a truck, that's the easy part. The real magic, the real challenge, is knowing exactly where that box is, what its value is on your books, and when it's going to show up, and having all of that tracked in the system. That's all about visibility and control. So let's dig into how SAP builds the foundation to make all that happen. So before a single product can go anywhere, we have to build the digital highways it's going to travel on. This is the absolute bedrock inside SAP that everything else is built on top of. So, where do we start? Well, the very first thing we have to do is teach the system how our business is actually put together, from a sales and distribution point of view. It's not enough to just say, here's a factory and here's a warehouse. Nope, we have to create these key building blocks that define how we move and sell our products, even when we're just moving them to ourselves. And here are the three big ones you need to know. You've got your sales organization, your distribution channel, and your division. So what do? Well, think of it like this. The sales org is who is responsible for the sale. The distribution channel is how you're selling it, like are you going wholesale or direct to customers? And the division is what you're selling, like which product line is it? When you put all three of those together, bam, you've just created a specific business pathway inside the company. Okay, so we've defined all these individual pieces, but right now they're just like a pile of Legos sitting on the floor. They're just ideas floating around in the system. The real power, the magic, happens when we start clicking them together, connecting them to build a network that actually looks like our real-world business. And this is literally how we snap those Legos together. First, we link the sales org to the company code. Got to connect it to the money, right? Then, we attach the channel and the division to that sales org. That whole bundle, SAP calls that a sales area. But here's the final, and I mean crucial link. We assign that whole sales structure to the actual physical plant. And just like that, our factory isn't just a building anymore. It has a real commercial identity in the system. Our digital highway is officially open for business. Okay, our infrastructure is built. Now it's time to get ready for the actual trip. We need to define who and what is traveling. In the world of SAP, this is all about master data. All right, there are three key records we absolutely need. First, you've got the material master. That's the what, the actual product we're shipping. And it has to be set up in both the sending and receiving locations. Now, here's where it gets a little weird, but it's really clever. We have to pretend a little bit. We set up the supplying plant to act like a vendor, and we set up the receiving plant to act like a customer. Why would we do that, you ask? Simple. It lets SAP use all of its powerful built-in sales and purchasing tools to manage the whole thing. It's a brilliant shortcut, really. No need to invent a whole new process. So how do we do that? Well, the magic T code for setting up that receiving plant as a customer is XD01. You jump in there, you define all the details for your destination, and you fill out a super important field called the shipping condition. This little setting is huge. It helps automate how the stuff gets shipped later. You're basically pre-programming the logistics for this internal customer. Okay, we've got our roads, we've got our travelers. Now we need to set the rules of the road, the traffic laws, if you will. This is all about the specific STO setup, where we tell the system exactly how we want this whole transfer to behave. This is where we make that final official connection. We go into the system and we explicitly say, hey, SAP, for this supplying plant, it's going to act as a seller using this sales area. And then we say, and for this receiving plant, it's going to be treated as this specific customer number we just created. Boom! The link is locked in. The system now knows without a doubt who's the shipper and who's the receiver. Now, you can think of this next part as the main control panel for the whole STO process. We set up a bunch of rules here, but I want you to pay attention to one thing in particular, a simple little checkbox. This checkbox, honestly, is one of the most important settings we're going to talk about. It decides everything. Is this whole stock movement going to happen instantly in one single step, or is it going to be two separate steps with the inventory being in transit for a while? That one click changes the whole game. All right, the setup is done, the rules are in place, it is finally time to actually make the trip. Let's see exactly how these two different methods, that one step versus the two step, actually work in the real world. So here it is, the big difference, boiled down. With the one-step method, the second the sending plant hits, post-goods issue, the system basically says, okay, they've been received. It's like the inventory just teleports. Boof! It's gone from one place and instantly appears at the other. But with the two-step method, it's different. When the goods are shipped, they go into this kind of limbo state called stock in transit. It doesn't belong to the sender anymore, but it doesn't belong to the receiver yet. It stays that way until the receiving plant actually confirms it arrived. Let's look at the one-step journey first. It's all about speed and efficiency. Step 1, you create the STO. Step 2, you create the delivery document. And then step 3, you post the goods issue. And that's it. It's all done. In that one final click, the stock is gone from the sender and received by the destination. Super fast, super simple. It's perfect for when you're moving stuff between two buildings that are, right next to each other. Now, let's compare that to the two-step journey. The first 3 steps, exactly the same. You create the order, you create the delivery, you post the goods issue. But, and this is a big but, the journey is not over, not even close. The stock is now officially floating in that in-transit category. And this is so important because financially, the value of that inventory isn't at the sending plant and it's not at the receiving plant. It's literally on the truck, on your company's books. The whole process only finishes when the receiving plant does its part and performs that final separate step. And that final step? That's where T-Code MIGO comes in. The team at the destination warehouse, they see the truck pull up, they unload the shipment, they count everything, and then they go into the system, into MIGO, and post the goods receipt. And only at that moment is the stock officially moved from that in-transit limbo into their actual available inventory. The journey is finally truly complete. So it all comes back to this fundamental trade-off, doesn't it? On one hand, you have the one-step process. It's faster, it's less paperwork. On the other hand, you've got the two-step process. It gives you way more control and real-time visibility of your valuable inventory while it's on the move. Which leads me to a final question for you to think about. Imagine you're shipping a really high-value, critical component across the country. Would you choose the speed of the one-step and just accept the risk of it teleporting in the system? Or is the control and accountability of tracking it every step of the way in transit just completely non-negotiable? Your answer to that really gets to the heart of why this whole structured process is so important.